burning to the ground.
Be ready to go.
All of these fire crews swarm this area.
We have extremely high winds.
These Southern California wildfires are hitting very much close to home.
It's just a chaotic situation out here.
Alex, that is the one bit of good news we've been getting down here on the I-5. The I-5 has been closed on and off throughout much of the day. Now, north-southbound, it is open, but there is a little bit of problem, according to Caltrans, on the road that is parallel this intersection. That's 126. Take a look over here and you can see why there's so much of an issue on that 126 road. Smoke still engulfs this entire area, and firefighters very much have their work cut out for them. We're here at Goodman Street, just off of Alta Vista Drive, where police say that a doctor and a man got into an altercation and the man was ultimately shot.
Well, that's right, Tammy. We are live on scene of an officer-involved shooting that happened what we believe to be just a little over an hour ago. And BPD has confirmed that 2 officers were shot, one in the arm and one in the neck. Now, the suspect is deceased.
To give you a little idea of what the scene looks like, there's still heavy police presence here at Arvin High School. There's actually now a helicopter that's been brought in to circle around. And when you look at the school right now, the shades have been drawn, the lights have been turned off. It is very much in a lockdown situation.
You can see here are those parents right here, hundreds of parents all gathering around to see what is the latest and just to wait for any sort of update.
The shooting inside the hospital. We haven't, again, talked to BPD yet, but we are working on that.
We were sitting in the waiting room, and a lady come running in and said that there was a man with a gun, and they made us all go into a nurse's station, and they locked the hospital down, and then all of a sudden the back door come flying open, and they said he was in there, and we all went running, and me and my sister and my little girl went running down a hall, and as we turned the corner, he was standing there, and he had his gun, and he told me, "Don't worry, I'm not going to shoot you," and the 3 of us took off running. And we got out to the front and we dove in a car with these people and they took us away. And then we came back because our dad had a heart attack today and he's in intensive care. So they just got us out here until we can go back in with our dad.
Now, Bakersfield police officers, Kern County sheriff's deputies, CHP, and the FBI all responded to this incident. And the FBI said at this point, terrorism was not involved.
Tammy, according to Kern County Search and Rescue, for the past 6 years, no one has died in the Kern River over the Memorial Day holiday. But this weekend, 3 people lost their lives. Now, to put that in perspective, 5 people drowned in the Kern River in all of last year.
Only 2 of the 5 people knew how to swim, and none of them were wearing life jackets.
Just keep holding on, all right? You have rescue boats coming to get you.
County search and rescue crews pull another person out of the Kern River.
Flowing fierce. County Search and Rescue say they have conducted well over 50 rescues this year. By our count, 8 people have died in the river.
This hour with breaking news of a body that has just been pulled from a canal just south of 20th and Oak Street. 17's Kristen Price just arriving on scene minutes ago. She joins us now with details of what is going on at the scene. Kristen.
Jim, city fire officials say they pulled a woman's body out of the canal here off of Oak Street. We're between 19th Street and Truxton Avenue. They said that the woman was pulled out just about 20 minutes ago. They got a report of her body floating down the river.
Jim and Tammy, we're just getting word now that a woman and 2 children have been stabbed here at this home behind us on Donna Avenue. About 10 minutes ago, we watched the woman be loaded into the ambulance and we watched a second ambulance leave. Now, police tell us that the 2 children, they're both boys. One is in his early teens and one is 10 years old. The 10-year-old's injuries are major right now.
And we are now just on the east side of Coffee Road, just north of Truxton Avenue right now as this diver enters the water to go up the canal and search for a vehicle that they believe went into the water about 7:30 this morning. That's when the first calls came in of a report of a vehicle, perhaps a small SUV that may have left the roadway under slow conditions. It went through 2 fences over by West Side Parkway, and then tire tracks lead it into the canal.
Tammy, it is a horrifying story. The family was asleep inside this apartment when the killers kicked the door down. You can still see their footprint right there, and opened fire on a man and woman while their 6-month-old child was asleep in between them, and the 5-year-old son was in the next room. Bullets ripped through the apartment wall and into the neighbor's apartment. Police say it's a miracle the children weren't hit. Delano police have confirmed that they are here at the Chase Bank in Delano investigating a robbery. Now, I want to show you what we can see here. There's a very heavy police presence. Take a look at the ATM. We're going to zoom in. That is the drive-through ATM that you can see right there with a Brinks truck directly behind it.
It's just a matter of time. Manson was rushed to a Bakersfield hospital 3 days ago and has been wheeled around on a gurney for various treatments, escorted by 5 uniformed cops.
Well, Jim, not every Kern County resident can afford to come to hospitals like Mercy Memorial or San Joaquin, but state prisoners are getting treated at these award-winning facilities because the hospitals have contracts with the Department of Corrections. So in some cases, you have convicted rapists and murderers with access to better health care than people free on the street. And the hospitals, well, they're making big bucks because of it.
Charles Manson, one of the most notorious murderers in U.S. history, is dead at the age of 83 after being treated at a local hospital. 17's Kristen Price is live tonight at the Kern County Coroner's Office in Northeast Bakersfield with details on what will happen to Manson's body now. Kristen?
Jim, Manson's body will be transferred here, if it hasn't already been, to the Kern County Coroner's Office. And there are still many unanswered questions surrounding his death, including where he will be buried.
Charles Manson may be dead, but the legal fight for his estate lives on.
The tragedy in Las Vegas hit very close to home.
People with ties to Kern County lost their lives and more were affected.
It's a long, emotional road for families left behind.
But you can provide support.
Wednesday, October 25th, KGET is hosting a barbecue lunch at our Compassion Corner.
Right outside our station, you can gather and pay tribute to the fallen.
A Kern County Day of Remembrance.
We hope you'll join us.
Once again, we teamed up with the Burn Center at San Joaquin Community Hospital and the Chevron Fund to help raise money to pay for treatment for young burn survivors in our community.
And we'd like to give a big thank you to all of you who came out and donated a fan for this year's fan drive.
A big thank you goes out to all of our viewers who came out to show support for local veterans and the Wounded Heroes Fund at our 6th annual barbecue fundraiser. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. yesterday, volunteers were busy cooking and serving up tri-tip lunches outside of our studios.
1 week after the mass shooting in Las Vegas, our community rallied around the family of one of the victims, bringing in $10,000.
Once again, Kern County, we put out the call, and you answered in a huge way. The Alliance Against Family Violence and Sexual Assault tells us they raised nearly $16,000 during today's barbecue lunch fundraiser.
$83,699.
Wow. Total of $22,500 was raised.
Yesterday's fundraiser brought in $17,000.
About 6,000 pounds of food was donated.
$13,000. All of that money will support Sal and its programs to keep at-risk kids off the streets. More than $15,000 was raised for the homeless center today. Their goal was $13,000. A big thank you to all of you.
Collectively, they raised $3,700 for the SPCA and our animals today.
And with your help today, organizers say more than $40,000 was raised. Organizers say over $250,000 has been raised over the last 4 years thanks to this annual barbecue and your willingness to give in the spirit of the Golden Empire.
Yeah, 600 fans were collected, along with nearly $1,800 to buy more fans.
$14,000 was raised for the Wounded Heroes Fund. That nonprofit helps veterans from wars in Iraq and Afghanistan after they've returned to civilian life.
The food bank says this year's drive brought in 18,000 pounds of food, nearly double what was collected last year.
24 days ago, the tragic shooting rampage in Las Vegas hit home. Well, today, many of you joined us at Compassion Corner for a day of remembrance, and you opened your hearts and your wallets to help victims and their families on their path to healing. 17's Tabitha Mills joining us from our newsroom now with more. Tabs?
Jim, the support was overwhelming, and thanks to people like you, at last check, more than $39,000 was raised to help victims and their families, and we're still counting. People waited in line for a half an hour or more. Cars and trucks lined the streets, stopping traffic in nearly every direction. 40,000 sandwiches were sold at $7 a piece, but many people handed over a 10 or a 20, saying, keep the change. It was an unbelievable show of support for those hurting and healing in our community.
It shows just kind of the small town roots of Kern County. We're big, Bakersfield's huge, but still it's that.
We're united, and we look out for each other in Bakersfield, which makes me happy, makes me proud. So.
As many of you know by now, the money raised from today's event will go to local victims and their families to help pay for medical bills, therapy, and other costs as they heal. 20-year-old Bailey Schweitzer's parents spent lunch with us at the event, and her mother, Chrissy, says seeing the community pull together like this, not only for her family, but for the families of the other victims, has been incredibly touching, and it's helped them through this difficult time. Reporting in studio, Tabitha Mills, 17 News.
The trial that has captivated Kern County.
Lust, religion, and a deadly shooting.
We know who killed Robert Lamone.
He didn't tell me he was going to Tehachapi to kill my husband.
Sabrina Lamone, in her own words.
I trusted him.
But will jurors find her guilty of helping mastermind her husband's murder?
Online, on air, every newscast.
And he just made me feel better.
Coverage focused on the critical evidence and significant testimony.
Stay with 17 News through the verdict.
But we begin this hour with breaking news. The Kern County Sheriff's Department has arrested a Tehachapi woman whose husband was murdered more than 2 years ago in what prosecutors have said was part of a love triangle.
Tammy, it turns out that it is no coincidence that Sabrina Lamone was arrested just days before her former lover was scheduled to go on trial for her husband's murder.
In your 17 Court Watch, the wife of a man shot to death in Tehachapi in 2014 has officially been charged with his murder.
Well, Jim, today we got a glimpse into some of the evidence that the prosecution has against Sabrina Lamone and why they believe she should be charged with first-degree murder, even though her lover is the one who actually pulled the trigger.
17 Court Watch now. We continue our coverage of the case of a wife and her boyfriend accused of killing her husband with allegations of swinging couples. Key witnesses sleeping with the victim and poisonous pudding.
Both sides gave their opening statements to a jury made up of mostly women. Prosecutor Eric Smith read several text messages between Sabrina Lamone and her former lover, Jonathan Hearn.
26 days after Robert had been killed. Baby, I love you so much. That's with 11 O's. That's how much she loved him. Moving on to October 5th, 2014. Baby, you are my partner in this life to live for God.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about this case being a love triangle case. And it's not a love triangle, ladies and gentlemen. I would call it more a love polygon.
Day 2 of the trial of the deadly love triangle case.
My wife never had sex with Robert Lamone.
Witnesses are grilled on the stand about nude photos and wife swapping.
I believe she told Jonathan to shoot Rob.
There's more to this. I don't want to cause problems.
You can get up there and say whatever you want, as you've done in the past, and gotten away with it. And it's up to the jury to decide whether or not you're telling the truth now, right?
I would certainly hope so.
Day 13 of the Sabrina Lamone murder trial.
My name's Sabrina Lamone, Limon.
Sabrina Lamone herself gets on the stand.
He was like nobody I'd ever met before.
The trial takes the biggest turn of all.
I don't know why I pursued a relationship with him.
Are you in love with Jonathan Hearn?
Yes.
Did you still love your husband?
Yes, I did.
Were you wanting to give up your life with Rob to be with Jonathan?
No.
Why not?
I had the best of both worlds right there. I guess I didn't want to give up either one of them.
And good morning from the 17 Newsroom. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Jason Galvin. We bring you this special report as it appears there is a verdict in the Sabrina Limon love triangle murder case.
We're going live now inside Judge John Brownlee's courtroom. The jury is seated. They are on the record. Let's listen in.
First count. We, the jury, and panel to try the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Sabrina Limon, guilty of a felony to wit, murder of Robert Limon in violation of Section 187, Sub A of the Penal Code, as charged in the first count of the information, and do hereby fix the degree as murder in the first degree.
We have several reporters there at the courthouse right now. We will have full coverage coming up on 17 News at noon, 5 and 6, as well as on our website, KernGoldenEmpire.com, and you can also follow along on our Facebook and Twitter pages.
And we want to remind you that you can watch past testimony on our KGET Facebook page. We continue to provide a live stream of the trial both there and on our website, KernGoldenEmpire.com.
A murder among friends.
I'm just freaking out.
The trial that brings their secrets to light.
It's a lifestyle that I don't expect people to understand. That was the bombshell of all bombshells.
Don't miss this special 2-hour Dateline tonight. They call it Secrets in Silver Lakes. That's the neighborhood where the Limons lived in San Bernardino County. Set to air at 9 o'clock right here on TV 17. And there are several more promotions for this show. We've posted them on our KGET Facebook page if you'd like to take a look.
Tonight, Dayline NBC dives into the case that continues to have twists and turns to this day. Now, if you missed any of the courtroom testimony during our live stream throughout the trial, this is definitely a great opportunity for you to be caught up on the case. Now, the special is actually airing right now on the East Coast. We have the East Coast feed pulled up here now. And for the next 2 hours, I'll be tweeting with NBC's East Coast viewers, answering questions and giving a behind-the-scenes feel of what it was like to cover this trial every day. And when the special airs here in Bakersfield at 9 o'clock tonight, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your questions and comments. Feel free to reach out to me on our social media pages. You can tweet your questions and comments to me at Olivia KGET.
Safe sleeping is an issue we follow closely here at 17 News. Why? Because unsafe sleeping is the most common cause of child death here in Kern County. Experts say babies should sleep in a crib or a pack and play with a firm mattress and a fitted sheet. There should be nothing else in the crib but the baby. No pillows, blankets, stuffed animals, or bumpers. Your baby should be placed on his or her back, and nothing should cover the baby's head. For more information, you can visit our website, KernGoldenEmpire.com, and click on the Safe Sleeping tab.
All the families we've spoken with say the same thing. They never thought this would happen to them, but it can. Co-sleeping was the #1 cause of death for local children in recent years. Because of that, we continue to emphasize the importance of safe sleeping for babies. No one can stress that more than a mother who tragically lost their child.
Jim Murray Robinson was born August 24, 2016.
She was perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with her. No health problems at all. She was healthy.
And happy. Najee Avila often capturing her smiling and laughing.
Just a little bitty baby.
But then the unthinkable happened. Avila woke up to her baby girl not breathing.
I only had 4 months with her, but those 4 months was the best months. And she was learning everything.
New at 5:30, it is a topic we continue to highlight here on 17 News, the importance of safe sleeping for babies.
For the last 2 years, our Kristen Price has brought awareness to the #1 cause of death for babies in our county. And she joins us tonight with more on a milestone for a local hospital. Kristen?
Tammy, as a result of our reports on this life or death issue, Kern Medical began an educational program on the importance of safe sleeping. It's been 1 year since the program started. During that time, they've provided more than 700 portable cribs to families who could not otherwise afford it.
Hi, baby. It's as easy as ABC.
The baby needs to sleep alone on the back in a crib.
Kern Medical has reached nearly 3,000 families in the last year through inpatient education and monthly classes open to the public.
It makes me think like, wow, I was doing a lot of that stuff. Like, I need to stop.
For information on safe sleeping and how you can donate to the cause, visit our website, KernGoldenEmpire.com, and click on the Safe Sleep icon.
Local advocates say the effort to reduce the number of unsafe sleeping deaths is paying off. 17's Kristen Price is here with the details. Kristen?
Tammy, the Child Death Review team presented an overview of its annual report today. It shows a significant reduction in the number of local unsafe sleeping deaths, but there's still more work to be done.
Hi,
baby.
The importance of safe sleep is something we continue to emphasize here at 17 News. It's the #1 killer of local kids in recent years. But a new report shows that's changing.
We've seen a reduction due to the community outreach and due to some of the attention from both the media, faith-based community, and our hospitals.
According to the Child Death Review Team, so far this year, unsafe sleeping was a factor in 2 infant deaths. Last year, there were 7, down from 12 unsafe sleeping deaths in 2015 and 16 in 2014.
Now to an issue we continue to emphasize here on 17 News, the importance of safe sleeping for babies. And today, local agencies received another tool to provide community education through a children's book.
Good night, Mom, Dad, Teddy Bear. You'll sleep soundly over there.
Sleep Babies Safe and Snug is a short story reiterating that babies should sleep alone on their backs in cribs. Again, babies should sleep alone on their backs in cribs, and there shouldn't be anything in the crib but the baby. This message is especially important during the winter months when experts say 90% of these deaths happen. For more information, go to our website, kerngoldenempire.com, and click on the safe sleeping icon.
Adult male was walking in the roadway when he was struck by the vehicle.
In the roadway, struck by a vehicle which was traveling westbound on Truxtun Avenue.
A deadly night in Kern County.
Drunk driving, head-on collisions, pedestrians struck and killed.
Didn't see the pedestrian hit the pedestrian.
Getting to the root of both epidemics.
How will Kern County move forward?
Good evening. Thanks for joining us here at 5 o'clock. I'm Tammy Melchak.
And I'm Jim Scott. We begin tonight with alcohol playing a major part in a deadly 24 hours here in Kern County. A gruesome reminder of 2 signature issues we continue to cover for you. We call it Kern's Sober Reality and also pedestrian safety. 2 men killed overnight. A third has major injuries as 3 pedestrians were hit in 3 separate locations around Bakersfield, in downtown, the Northeast, and the Southwest. Plus, a mother and daughter killed in a head-on crash on Taft Highway by a driver who investigators say has multiple prior DUI convictions.
Now, tonight on our website, kerngoldenempire.com, we will have an interactive map of pedestrian fatalities across Kern County this year. Danny Freeman, 17 News.
By our count, there have been 11 pedestrian fatalities so far this year.
By our count, this is the 24th pedestrian fatality on Kern County roads this year.
By our count, this fatality is the 28th pedestrian killed on Kern County roads this year.
And we are halfway through 2017, and Kern County is already rapidly approaching last year's total number of pedestrian fatalities by our count.
Now, this is the first homicide BPD has investigated this year. By our count, this is the 3rd homicide overall in 2017.
By our count, this is the 14th homicide of the year in Kern County. There have been 16 homicides in Kern County so far this year.
And so far this year, there have been 19 homicides in our county. We continue to track local killings through the homicide tracker. On our website, you'll find statistics along with personal stories of the victims. And the latest shootings mark the 32nd and 33rd killings in our county so far this year. So far this year, there have been 34. And this killing brings the number of homicides in Kern County to 35 this year. The latest brings the number up to 82 so far this year. And as we mentioned, this is the 98th homicide in Kern County this year, tying both last year's count and the 2009 total for the most in 1 year.
Well, good evening, Jim. Yeah, for those holiday travelers, if you're planning on hitting the roads, you'll be at the mercy of Mother Nature as we've seen heavy rain, gusty winds, and low visibility.
And we're watching as showers are working through the mountain passes right now. We have seen our share of rain here on the 58.
We've had reports of mudslides, rock slides, and we're just seeing the deluge of rain moving through our area just within the past hour or so this afternoon. We have live Storm Watch team coverage tonight with reporters fanned out across the county, from local damage in the Bakersfield area to concerns for travelers hoping to head over the Grapevine for the holiday weekend.
Watching for flash flooding there and debris flow through the roadways.
Yeah, the main artery that connects the Kern River Valley to Bakersfield is shut down. Caltrans shut it down just about an hour ago because of the rain that we've seen all night long.
You can email your video or your photos to our newsroom. 17news at KGET.com or use the hashtag 17StormTeam.
So a couple pictures coming in from viewers. Maria Pete showing us again hail on the ground.
It is just a mess out here, and we are seeing tow trucks make their way into this area, and they're starting to remove some of the cars. So, but like he said, we have seen some hail on the side of the road, and we've got storms that are making their way, more storms making their way into the Golden Empire.
The other thing we're looking at, we've been getting some reports, I think a little higher than where Alex is, that we've got some heavy snow falling over the grapevine at some of the higher elevations. I'm also getting reports of some moderate to heavy snow falling in the Tehachapi area.
So watching out for maybe some cold air funnel clouds, not actual tornadoes, but again, that rotation taking place.
With these gusty winds and this heavy rain, we have definitely seen the weather do some damage in the city. We saw trees topple down coming into backyards, roadways. This storm is definitely leaving its mark.
Taking into one cell, though, we have had some isolated thunderstorms, and now we have one that is making its way here just south of the 58 out near Button Willow. So watching for that thunderstorm to probably make its way toward southwest Bakersfield as we head into the next half hour.
Jim, we've made our pinhole shoeboxes right here. We donned our special glasses, and the eclipse finally came. And judging by the reaction we got around town, there was no disappointment.
Have an air quality alert, and that's going to run the next few days. We'll be watching out for high particulate matter. So if you are sensitive to any of that particulate matter in the air, make sure you do take that exercise indoors and make sure your windows are closed on the house.
Those scrappy Roadrunners came out on top again last night, this time against the University of Texas at Arlington. And now they are headed to the Big Apple. 17's Daniel Tran has details on how you can go to the semifinal games in New York City.
The Cal State Bakersfield's men's basketball team doing something no team has ever done before. 17's Tabitha Mills is here with the story. Tabitha?
Tammy, CSUB's run to the National Invitation Tournament semifinals has not only been remarkable, it's history-making.
Damian Durham launches, hits another one.
I'll be reporting live from New York next Tuesday, and we'll also have a series of stories leading up to the runners' NIT Final Four appearance. And for continuing coverage after our newscast, visit our website, curtaingoldenempire.com. You can also search the hashtag CSUB in NYC. And you have one more chance to cheer on the runners before they head to the New York to take on Georgia Tech.
Hey everyone, greetings from New York. Let me show you a few things around me right now. That right there, that's the Empire State Building. You see the red lights up top. Right next to the Empire State Building, the building with the blue and orange lights, because the Knicks are in town tonight. That's Madison Square Gardens. That is where the Cal State men's basketball team will take on Georgia Tech tomorrow night in what could be the biggest game in the program's D1 history, because if they win tomorrow night, they're going on to the National Invitation Tournament final championship game. And Coach Barnes and his team, they are looking forward to getting to that game.
We're also hearing stories of survival from our neighbors. 17's Danny Freeman joining us this morning live from the Strip in Las Vegas. The story of a local mother and daughter who managed to escape the gunfight, shaken but unscathed. Danny?
Jason, that's right. Yesterday we brought you the story of a Bakersfield husband and wife. The husband was able to shield his wife underneath the table from the onslaught of gunfire at that concert. Today we have a story of a Kern mother and daughter. They were able to escape alive because they were together. Flickering candles have popped up on the streets of Las Vegas, all to pay tribute to those killed and injured during Sunday night's massacre. The scene still active as roads were closed Monday night and vehicles were being towed from the crime scene. All as the ominous broken windows on the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay loom over the Vegas Strip. Over 24 hours ago, a man used that hole as a perch to fire into a crowd of country concert goers.
We're literally running for our lives.
Rewind to late Sunday night, early Monday morning. Lisa Jillian and her daughter Carly were visiting Vegas from Bakersfield, enjoying the last act of the Route 91 Harvest Festival when chaos broke out.
And you heard firecrackers, and so you assume it's just, you know, some idiot being silly, so you don't think nothing about it, and then a little bit later you hear the...
Lisa and Carly were separated from the rest of their family in the confusion.
We've seen a couple people on the ground injured, and it became really real that we could die. We could really die.
and faced the life or death situation we've heard others describe. Do you stay put and hide or run?
We had to get on the ground, we ran, crawled on our knees and our hands, went through fences with a whole bunch of other people.
The two escaped and reunited with family, but the scar will likely last.
I've already said multiple times I don't think I could ever go to a large gathering like that ever again.
Because we felt really safe until then. And then now you don't really feel safe.
It's easy to stare at the Mandalay Bay as it stands at the south end of the Las Vegas Strip, but it's still hard to imagine that's where a man perched where he fired on an unsuspecting crowd. Now, we'll be here in Vegas continuing to give you these stories throughout the day on our broadcast and, of course, online on Facebook and at KernGoldenEmpire.com.
Jason, the bay behind me is often foggy this time of year, but what we're seeing today is smoke, and that is because of 14 wildfires burning about an hour north of San Francisco where we are right now, and the fire has turned deadly tonight. 10 people are confirmed dead, and others are still unaccounted for. Wildfires in the heart of wine country burning out of control. Fire officials say 1,500 homes and businesses are destroyed.
It's like waking up in the middle of a nightmare.
Another 20,000 structures are threatened, with evacuations in place, including 2 hospitals.
We're just watering the bushes down there, catching on fire, watering the side of an apartment that was caught on fire.
The destruction already devastating.
Looking at my house, it's like this can't be possible. This can't actually be. I don't know. I can't even describe it.
This all started around 10 last night with a fire in Napa. Gusty winds around 50 miles per hour spread embers, possibly sparking other fires. And the cause of the fire is under investigation. Fire officials say at least 57,000 acres have burned so far, but that number is expected to increase as fire officials are able to estimate the acres here. And also we're hearing the death toll increasing by the minute. Each minute we've been doing updates here, there's new numbers. So we'll continue to keep you posted. For now, live in San Francisco, I'm Kristen Price, 17 News.
Tammy, Jamie Osuna has been very open about the horrific things he did to Yvette Pena, a virtual stranger to him when he decided to murder her in cold blood. Her family has had to look him in the eye for years in court, listen to his outbursts, and look at crime scene photos of their loved one. Today, they got their first bit of closure. Jamie Osuna was calm. He smiled, even laughed, and chatted about the Oakland Raiders as he signed his life away, pleading guilty to murder and torture.
The murder that was committed in count 1 was intentional and involved the infliction of torture within the meaning of Penal Code Section 190.2, subsection A, subdivision 18. Do you admit that allegation?
Yes, 100%.
Pictured here in 2011, Osuna admitted to the brutal murder of 36-year-old Yvette Pena, a woman he says he met for the first time the night before he killed her at the El Morocco motel. She was found with knives and a pair of scissors in her back. Pena was a mother of 6, including a 9-month-old baby.
It's not often, even as somebody who prosecutes murderers for a living, that I come across somebody who's just plain evil. If anybody deserves the death penalty, Jamie Osuna does.
Osuna was facing the death penalty because of the brutality of the crime. But today he took a plea deal for life without the possibility of parole.
Extremely difficult. It's been torture. It's been awful.
Pena's friends and family have had to look at Osuna's face for years, with his Joker smile tattoo and a satanic symbol on his forehead. That's why prosecutor Nick Lackey agreed to waive the death penalty to ease the burden on the family.
We're just happy it's over with, and everybody could just, Yvette's always going to be in our hearts, and we love her, and we're happy she could finally rest in peace.
Now they can mourn and remember the good.
Her friendship, her smile, her beautiful smile, she was just a very loving person.
Jamie Osuna will be sentenced on May 15th, what would have been Yvette Pena's 42nd birthday. And tomorrow on 17 News, we'll show you our exclusive sit-down with Jamie Osuna as he gives us a look into the mind of a murderer.
It's a rush, it's an addiction, it's a drug.
And arson investigators are still on scene. The good news is they're in the mop-up stages of this fire, and that's because we're not seeing the immediate threat of what we saw earlier this afternoon when that fire ripped through hundreds of acres of land in the surrounding area here in South Bakersfield, burning 3 homes. Now you can see they are still mopping up here. You can see the 2 houses that you see right here. One looks damaged. The other one looks either destroyed or badly damaged. But you can see that what the good news is that we're seeing more and more firefighters leave the area, roll up their hoses and leave the area because, again, we are in the mop-up stages. Now, the big thing with today's fire is, of course, we saw those 3 homes destroyed, but it was the animals that were, many died, or a lot of them were just let loose. And we're going to talk to 17's Danny Freeman, who's here right now, and talk to him more about that. Danny?
Yeah, Alex, you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the biggest things that we heard from people we spoke to is the similar refrain. They said, our family is safe, our kids are okay, we were able to get out of our house before the fire came to us, but we're worried about our animals, our horses, our dogs, our pets that are inside the house. And we have a bit of an update on that actual death toll when it comes to animals that we saw. Nick Cullen of Kern County Animal Services, he says between 15 and 17 animals were killed in this particular fire over here at Cottonwood, primarily horses or other livestock such as cows. We actually saw the corpse of 1 horse lying off of a burned house. Now, that is out of dozens of horses and livestock threatened by this fire here and the other fire north. You heard Captain Nag of Kern County Fire refer to those animals up in that fire north of here. But Nick Cullen, Director of Animal Services, reacted to this hard day for his whole department.
The response from both city animal control and county animal control and the fire and sheriff's department was incredible, in my opinion. So luckily we were able to save as many animals as we possibly could, and we're still kind of wading our way through the animals that are still left over.
Now, Cullen says that if you have a horse or own a horse that you believe perhaps was impacted by this particular fire, there's a way to see if they were rescued, if that horse or those livestock were rescued. They're being held at the Kern County Fairgrounds, those animals that were rescued here. You can contact Animal Services directly also to find that out. And I just want to end, hopefully, again, another positive note. At the very beginning of our coverage at 4 o'clock, we introduced you to a girl named Natalie. She and her family, they were in their house. They managed to get out, but they were worried about their animals, specifically their dogs that were inside the house at the time that the fire was rolling through, where just moments ago, caught up with Natalie, spoke to her. Her dogs are safe. They came running over after first responders were able to rescue those dogs, and they jumped right up onto Natalie's mother. It was a sweet moment, and again, that family for the moment is still intact. So live from South Bakersfield, Danny Freeman, 17 News.
Tens of thousands of dollars of cocaine is missing from the property room. I'm Kristen Price as another local law enforcement agency investigates more missing drugs.
After 30 years, the cold case murders of a teenage girl and a beloved father are heating up here in the crime lab.
On behalf of my family, we would like to thank all who have sent their condolences and all who sit here today to honor my father.
A masterclass in honor and precision as we follow the entire procession in honor of Sergeant Dennis Moore.
Good evening. Good to have you with us here for 17 News at 5. I'm Tammy Melchak.
And I'm Jim Scott. Sergeant Dennis Moore of the Bakersfield Police Department was sworn to protect and to serve, which he did with honor and dignity right up until the moment he passed away last week as he was getting ready for work. Today, he was laid to rest with all the ceremonial traditions fit for a fallen officer. We have 17 News team coverage tonight from the very visual procession of peace officers through the streets of Bakersfield to the memorial service to the cemetery. And we begin with 17's Maddie Jansen, who was inside that service today when so many people spoke of the man they knew and loved. Maddie?
Jim and Tammy, hundreds gathered here at River Lakes Church this morning in the sanctuary. Row after row of uniformed officers from various agencies. Black bars across their badges, remembering their brother in blue.
Law enforcement is the noblest of professions.
A uniform once worn with pride, laid out in a solemn display. The man who once wore it remembered today with both laughter and tears.
He was our rock and our role model. and the most caring father a girl could ask for.
Throughout our family struggles and my father's moral battles, I always idolized his commitment to his family.
Family members' shoulders shook with tears. His loved ones, surrounded by the brotherhood Sergeant Moore was part of for so long.
Gina, Jarrett, Ashley, Melissa, I want you to know that you're not alone. Look around this church. You have neighbors, family, friends, and co-workers that are here to support you at any given time when you need our help.
Chief Lyle Martin recalled both the sergeant and the man behind the badge as loving and loyal and conscientious.
Going through his personnel file, that word I counted 27 times. Conscientious. In fact, dedication was listed 31 times.
But family says that dedication to the force and the stress that it brought cost him his life. Sergeant Moore died last Wednesday of a heart attack. Still, it's his heart he's being remembered for.
Our community is a better place because of the heart of Sergeant Moore.
More than 2 decades of dedication wrapped up in a flag.
I feel peace knowing that Dennis has earned the rank of Guardian Angel.
A noble salute, a heartfelt tribute, and a final goodbye for their brother in blue as Sergeant Moore was carried off to his final resting place at Greenlawn Southwest Cemetery.
Dennis Allen Moore, end of watch. One more date, my friend. 8/9/2017, my birthday. I love you.
And Sergeant Moore's final 2 rides were quite the sights to see, covering 3 corners of our city, from the northeast here to the northwest, and then finally to the southwest. That's where we find 17's Danny Freeman. He's live this evening at Greenlawn Southwest Mortuary with a look back. Danny.
Sergeant Dennis Moore's funeral procession was an impressive display of precision as the city of Bakersfield got one last chance to say goodbye to its fallen officer. Officers began to gather at Greenlawn Cemetery on the Panama Bluffs not long after sunrise this morning, raising a flag and readying traffic, all to deliver the late Sergeant Dennis Moore to River Lakes Church while allowing the city to pay its respects. The motorcade started its roughly 10-mile journey across the city at 8 a.m. Dozens of squad cars, ambulances, and more rounding up Golden State Avenue on its way to Olive Drive. Here at Golden State Avenue, as the procession moves on, you can really feel the camaraderie of all of Bakersfield agencies. You see the firefighters saluting as the police cars roll by. As the hearse arrived at River Lakes Church on Callaway, salutes continued. And Police Chief Lyle Martin began his remarks acknowledging the overwhelming display of support from the city and agencies from across the state.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the allied agencies who've come out to support us in our time of need.
Afterwards, Bakersfield Police Lieutenant Gary Carresco reflected on taking part in today's procession.
I was overwhelmed at the number of community members standing on the side of the road, saluting or holding their hands over their heart, excuse me, showing their support for Dennis and what he contributed to the community.
Following the church service, Sergeant Moore's body was escorted by a smaller procession to the southwest, closing parts of the 99 to bring the fallen to Greenlawn Mortuary Southwest. As Sergeant Moore passed on, flags lowered as the day continued.
Now, it is here at this mortuary where Bakersfield police confirm that Sergeant Moore will be cremated after Bakersfield had one last time to salute its fallen hero. Live from Southwest Bakersfield, Danny Freeman, 17 News.
Danny, thanks. Although today was somber, there was laughter as those who knew Sergeant Moore best shared their memories at a reception following the service. 7 News' Alex Fisher joins us with that part of our team coverage. Alex?
Tammy, during the funeral and lunch reception, police officers, friends, and family members shared their favorite stories of Sergeant Dennis Moore. Hundreds of family, friends, and members of law enforcement gathered under one roof to let loose a little and share their favorite stories of Dennis Moore.
When he was little, wearing his dad's boots, and he'd have them up, they'd be up to his knees.
Dennis, he just always made everybody laugh. He was a great guy.
I have no doubt he is one of those angels up there.
We had an incident one time where Dennis angered the sergeant, and in return, the sergeant made Dennis write all the reports for the rest of the night. And Dennis never angered that sergeant again, but we got laughs out of that for many years.
Happy memories now difficult to share.
The early years, it didn't matter where we were. If we were camping, we were at a friend's house. When 8 o'clock rolled around, Dennis would always pull a Houdini. He would disappear from the gathering, or he would slowly inch away from the campfire towards his trailer, so no one would notice him making his exit. Or we could be at his house, and he'd simply go to bed.
I can't tell you of one time Dennis did not make sure to ask how my wife Jenny and my daughter Haley were doing. That's the line that gets me every time.
You hear people talk about how law enforcement is a family. It's not until moments like this when you realize that it's so deeply true. And we're all experiencing the loss of one of our family members.
And while those folks had their opportunity to share their memories of Sergeant Moore, you can get involved as well. If you would like to offer condolences, you can send an email to condolences@bakersfieldpd.us or send cards to the police department on Truxton Avenue. And in lieu of flowers, the family suggests donations to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in honor of Sergeant Dennis Moore. Reporting in studio, Alex Fisher, 17 News.
Alex, thank you. Sergeant Dennis Moore is the 9th Bakersfield police officer whose death is considered in the line of duty. The most recent death was that of Officer David Nelson, who was killed in a vehicle pursuit in June of 2015. 3 other BPD officers were killed in motorcycle crashes, one by a fall, one who was struck by a train, and one who was shot, dating back to 1903, when Thomas Jefferson Packard was shot and killed in the Joss House shootout. Sergeant Moore served and protected the people of Bakersfield for over 20 years. Your 17's Jason Galvin with a look back at his career.
Sergeant Moore spent most of his life here in Kern County. He married a Bakersfield woman and dedicated himself to protecting our community. Dennis Moore was born December 15, 1969 in Canoga Park. His family moved to Pine Mountain Club when he was a child. Moore attended Bakersfield High School, where he graduated in 1988. After spending time at Bakersfield College, Moore enrolled in the Bakersfield Police Academy, where he graduated in 1991. Moore served the Arvin community until 1997, when he transferred to the Bakersfield Police Department. He enjoyed a steady rise through the police ranks, becoming a senior officer in 2004 and a sergeant in 2011. Moore met his wife, Gina, in 1989. The two were married in 1993. They spent 23 years together. They had 3 children, Jarrett, Ashley, and Melissa. Sergeant Moore's family says he was just 2 years from retirement. Jason Galvin, 17 News.
And we have continuing coverage of Sergeant Moore's funeral on our website, kerngoldenempire.com, as well as our KGET social media pages. If you would like to see this morning's service, it is on our KGET Facebook page. You can also follow today's events with our hashtag EndOfWatchBPD on Facebook and on Twitter.
From honoring a fallen officer, we make the tough turn now to an update on a story we have been following for months. It's a story about law enforcement investigating its own, working to preserve the honor of the profession. Our Kristen Price broke the story back in May of detectives stealing drugs and selling them. Kristen has been digging ever since then, and now, with documents uncovered through the Public Records Act, she has the latest bombshell, a 17 News exclusive. Even more drugs, a lot of them, are missing. Kristen?
The drugs are missing from the Kern County Sheriff's Department, and we've learned it's connected to Demasio Diaz. The disgraced BPD detective is already behind bars, convicted of stealing meth from the BPD and conspiring to sell it.
This latest revelation of missing drugs comes right on the heels of former sheriff's deputies Logan August and Derek Penny being sentenced for stealing and selling marijuana from KCSO evidence. Both were given probation. Neither is headed to prison.
And I'm just appreciative of that because I get a second chance with my children. I get a second chance as a husband and as a community member of Kern County.
I'm ready to just move on and move from here.
I submitted a public records request to find out what else was unaccounted for. Turns out marijuana isn't the only drug missing.
Sheriff spokesman Ray Pruitt says 1.9 pounds of cocaine is unaccounted for, worth approximately $50,000. Pruitt says it's part of the federal investigation into Bakersfield Police Detective Demasio Diaz. But that's all Pruitt could say, citing an administrative investigation.
Ray knows more than I do then.
I spoke with Sheriff Donnie Youngblood about the missing cocaine.
But it was discovered at some point recently that there was cocaine missing?
If you're talking about the federal investigation, you'd have to check with them.
So I tried. The U.S. Attorney's Office that prosecuted both the KCSO and BPD corruption cases said they couldn't provide me the information.
I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to the FBI, but the Bureau hasn't responded yet. This isn't the first time evidence has been missing from the Sheriff's Department. In 2008, a 19-year-old civilian employee stole 20 guns. At the time, the sheriff had this to say.
I'm angry over this whole episode and ultimately learned that he had taken several firearms from the sheriff's property room and they'd been disposed in various locations.
With the recent revelation, the sheriff isn't as forthcoming.
I'm not going to speak on the federal investigation because it's not ours, and I really, it'd be inappropriate for me to do that.
We posted the entire interview with the sheriff on our website, kerngoldenempire.com, and we'll continue to follow this story. As soon as we get a response from the federal government, we'll let you know. Kristen Price, 17 News.
2 local murder cases pushed to the back burner are now being dusted off.
It was hard not having him there. It was hard not being able to say goodbye.
30 years after the brutal murders of a beloved father and a teenage girl went cold, we get detectives to give the unsolved crimes a second look. A 17 News special report coming up next. Plus, new at 5:30.
Students and staff in Arvin say they need more space, but the district says there's a lot to consider. I'm Lori Lizarraga with why the potential for a new high school in Lamont is causing some controversy.
And still ahead here at 5, his dedication is noteworthy. 4 decades of service, not enough to keep this music man in retirement and out of the classroom.
A seasonal day today, temperatures close to average at 95 degrees, but will it last? That's ahead in Pinpoint Weather. But first, a look at 17 News sunrise tomorrow.
17's Alex Fisher is deep in the August No Sugar Challenge.
This is a sweet treat without sugar.
He's cooking up some no sugar recipes to help keep that sweet tooth satisfied.
Today we're going to use bananas.
Join Alex every Friday morning on 17 News at Sunrise. Yummy No Sugar Challenge recipes.
Welcome back. For 3 decades, 2 brutal murder cases, one of a teenage girl, the other a church-going father, were sitting on the shelf at the Sheriff's Department, growing colder with every year that passed, until now.
17's Olivia LaVoice joins us as her continued effort to shed light on some of Kern County's cold cases helped get these 2 cases re-examined at the county's crime lab. Olivia?
Jim, after the families of the victims reached out to us, we contacted the Sheriff's Department to see what could be done to solve these cases 30 years later. It turns out neither case had been tested for DNA until we asked about it.
October 1987, Mary Chavez had just celebrated her 17th birthday when her nude body was found in a Bakersfield oil field. The teenager was beaten to death.
I really was interested in pursuing, trying to get to see if they're working on my sister's case or if there was a way we could do that. I didn't think that you would take it and run with it as you did.
Mary's brother reached out to 17 News last year, asking for help in finding answers.
In the beginning, they told me, they said that it was most likely someone she knew. And so living with the idea that this could be somebody potentially that I know, this could be, have I lived my whole life around somebody that's done this? I don't know. It haunts you. It really does.
We agreed to try to help and continued to look into DNA testing in cold cases.
If you know of a case that you're hopeful will one day be solved through DNA testing, we'd like to hear about it. Earlier this year, the day after we did a story on how forensic science has affected various local cases, a woman walked into 17 News with 34-year-old police reports in hand.
I've never contacted anybody before until I saw the news piece that you did, and when I met you, I just felt a closeness that I knew that you would help me.
In August 1983, Ann's father, Donald Nielsen, was beaten to death near Breckenridge Road and Comanche Drive. Reports on both cases showed physical evidence collected at both crime scenes years before DNA testing was discovered. So we reached out to the Sheriff's Department. Both cases were then immediately reviewed, reopened, and sent out here to the crime lab to be tested for DNA for the first time ever. A few months ago, a match was made to fingerprints from the Donald Nielsen crime scene. Officials have the new suspect's DNA, which will be compared to the DNA found at the scene. They also have DNA from suspects in the Mary Chavez case that will be used for comparison. These discoveries all made by a dedicated investigator, Sergeant Joel Swanson.
He's been amazing. He's been the person I've needed all these years to really get in the file, dig deep, find those things that only he could find.
The new detective design makes me feel like, you know, hey, it's not a box sitting on a dusty shelf with cobwebs on it. There's actually somebody looking at this, and even 30 years later, good does prevail at some point.
Investigators expect to have the DNA results back in both cases very soon, within about 2 weeks, so long as the crime lab doesn't get too busy in between. As always, if there's a cold case you'd like us to look into, we'd like to hear about it. In studio, I'm Olivia LaVoice, 17 News.
A bizarre traffic accident takes the life of a young man in Bakersfield. His best friend severely injured.
Tonight, that young man is headed back home to South Carolina as his family struggles to pay his medical and air travel bills. How you can help. New at 5:30. Okay, it's time for a reality check in the Pinpoint Weather Center. Here's Alyssa.
Temperatures today are very average, but hey, it could be worse. We could be in the triple digits, and yes, the heat is back. That's what Jim's referring to. Looking at 95 here in Bakersfield, 94 into Wasco, 93 in Taft, 81 in Fraser Park, 82 in Tehachapi, 88 over in Lake Isabella, 95 in Mojave. Our humidity value at 30%, the dew point's at 59, so that's starting to creep back up. A little bit more moisture flowing in, and winds out of the west-northwest at 13 miles per hour. Air quality has not been too terribly bad. In fact, as we head into tomorrow, looking at 93 into the moderate range. Hardly a cloud in the sky here, but we are still watching as some moisture in the form of pop-up showers continue here as we make our way up near Yosemite. Bishop, you are probably seeing just some clouds, but as we make our way west of that, one isolated cell trying to produce some heavy downpours also into the Tulare County area, seeing some of that activity too. And we're looking overall at a pattern here where in Kern County, we're not seeing anything going on. We do have some instability though present, and when we add the sunlight to it, we have that daylight heating and the moisture present, so that does sometimes result in pop-up showers. And that's what we're seeing right now into the Central Sierra. Here are areas of low pressure here at the surface, but we also have one developing in the upper levels as well. And that's going to move in as we head into the weekend. And as that happens, we'll add more clouds, a little bit more moisture, so it's going to feel a little more humid as we head into the weekend. And at this point, your forecast does call for a little bit of a warm up too. 100 degrees as we head into our Friday, 101 then on Saturday, 99 on Sunday, and then the eclipse on Monday. Temperatures then around 98 into the afternoon. The morning should be pleasant though. Into the mountains, mid 80s with a few more clouds on the way. Overnight lows will be into the mid to upper 50s. And into the Kern River Valley, looking at mid 90s. And then for the solar eclipse on Monday, we'll be at 92 degrees. And of course, all eyes, no pun intended, getting ready to watch that eclipse. And I'm going to have some important tips on what to do when you are trying to view the eclipse coming up at 5:30.
All right, very good.
Okay.
We'll see you then.
Thanks.
Well, he retired after 30 years in the classroom.
But his passion for music pulled Mr. Morrison out of the easy chair and back to campus. Why he decided to let the music play. And 17 News at 5 continues.
Welcome back. He's changing lives one note at a time.
Despite retiring last year, an elementary school band teacher is back again this year, and he's working for free. 17's Tabitha Mills in studio now with this man's love of music and his love for his students, described as so grandioso.
That's right, Jim. Grandioso, a musical term that loosely means to play grandly. Appropriate in this case, as Mr. Arnold Morrison has played a grand part in the lives of many in the Delano community.
As soon as the bell rings at Fremont Elementary School, you can find students, instruments in hand, marching to Mr. Arnold Morrison's class.
Ready, go. B, rest.
It's awesome.
How many rests are there?
3.
Tres, that's right.
These kids all want to be here.
Wait, left, 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 right, left.
So does Mr. Morrison.
Simply because I love what I do, and I really love helping out these kids.
Go.
Although sometimes offbeat and off-key, this is a masterpiece.
Mr. Morrison is the reason why I want to be a musician.
Mr. Morrison, originally from Los Angeles, was inspired to make a difference in Delano 38 years ago when he signed on to start a new band program in the Delano Union Elementary School District. Delano is a city of roughly 54,000 people, 10,000 of which are in one of 2 state prisons or the correctional facility. It's rural, low income, and crime-ridden.
I do everything I can to get instruments in the hands of these kids, because for every instrument that I can get, there's one more chair that's filled in this band room, and it's filled with joy and it's filled with love.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
At the end of last school year, Mr. Morrison retired, but he couldn't stay away. As the school searched for a new band teacher, Mr. Morrison started teaching again.
What am I doing? What's happening?
As a volunteer for free.
Not so loud.
He really is irreplaceable. It just really speaks to how dedicated he is to the community of Delano and how music is just a part of his soul.
Left, right, left.
A lot of people ask the question, well, if you ever win the lottery, what would you do with all that money? And most people will say, oh, I'd buy an island in the Caribbean and I'd live there. Not me. I'd stay right here, and I'd spend all of that money on instruments for these kids.
Then please let me know. I'd love to have you in my band. This is going to give you kind of the...
Some of the children at Fremont cannot afford to buy or rent an instrument. Mr. Morrison often pays out of his own pocket to help. If you have any instruments you would like to donate to the program or would like to help in any way, you can send me an email, tabithamills@kget.com, and I can get you in touch with Mr. Morrison. Tabitha Mills, 17 News.
Wow, what
Thanks,
a special
Tab.
teacher.
Wow, what an impact he's had.
That's amazing.
Incredible. Still ahead, history or hate? There's a renewed debate in this country swirling around Confederate statues in America. And President Trump is weighing in on Twitter.
And terror in Barcelona. A van plows into people on a crowded street, leaving 12 dead and dozens injured. We're back after the break.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at 5:30.
And welcome back. We begin this half hour with education news. More than 1,600 signatures from people living in southern Kern County got the attention of the Kern High School District Board of Trustees last week.
And those signatures come from residents of Arbin, Lamont, and surrounding communities coming together to show their support for a new high school in Lamont in order to ease overcrowding. But can the district build one? 17's Lori Lizarraga did some research and joins us now with what she's learned. Lori?
Well, a new school year has just begun, and the Kern High School District is already under fire, with talk of a new high school in Lamont becoming controversial.
Mid-August and the start of another school year in Kern County. But the nerves of some Arbin High students are more than first day jitters.
Getting overpopulated. It's getting very uncomfortable to go on the buses,
to be on campus, like getting lunch, there's a lot of kids shoving, pushing, just to get in line in order to get their lunch.
Junior Kevin Cruz articulating just a few points from his laundry list of concerns after 2 years at Arvin High.
There's a discussion about all the growth in the South and the Northwest and how they need to change the boundary lines to better deal with the growing population. But here in Arvin High School, we've been dealing with overcrowding issues since I was in high school.
And students aren't the only ones expressing frustration with long-term overcapacity on the buses, in the lunch line, and in class.
If you want to stay for tutoring, you go to the library and they'll help you out. But sometimes it's like there's a little bit of teachers and they can't really get to you sometimes. So you just have to wait and see if you get a time with them.
My concerns are not the staff or administration at Arvin High. This has to do with capacity issues, and this has to do with transportation issues and accessibility.
So we spoke with Arvin High Principal Ed Watts, who was eager to address these concerns. He says Arvin High has done everything right to accommodate its growing population. For example, 29 portable classrooms have been added to the 83-acre campus as the number of students steadily climbs. And while capacity has been exceeded by hundreds of students in Arvin, Watts feels there are other solutions to be explored before talking new high school. And KHSD board member Joey O'Connell agrees, which is why he formed a committee.
Starting a high school somewhere, it's a very complex issue. You have to take into account so many things. That's what this committee is all about. We're trying to discover what the challenges are to building a school in Lamont.
Some 1,400 students are bused in or dropped off at Arvin from Lamont each week. And while the district acknowledges a nearly 30% overcapacity rate, they also say there are obvious roadblocks to building a high school in Lamont.
We're seriously looking at it, and we hope that we're able to work through those challenges. But at the very top of those challenges would be things like, well, Lamont sits on a floodplain.
Still, with the development of 160 new homes underway in Arvin and projected local growth showing no signs of slowing.
There's a lot of growth that is happening in Arvin right now. There's a lot of new home construction. We're investing in economic development, hoping to attract new businesses here. So Arvin's going to continue to grow. This problem is not going away.
It looks like the conversation on the way to a solution will be a long one.
As a parent, as a teacher, as a community member, this is all about our students and our children in this community. We just want the best for them.
Principal Watts and the KHSD board say they're eager to continue working with the Arvin and Lamont communities. But of course, a long-term solution will take time. Lori Lizarraga, 17 News.
Lori, thanks. Hunter Wayne Scott, the South Carolina man who survived a tragic accident in South Bakersfield earlier this month, is making his way back home tonight. Wayne Scott underwent back surgery at Kern Medical for injuries he suffered when a trailer broke loose from a pickup truck, hitting him and killing his best friend. 17's Mary Kate Paquette has been following this story, and she joins us now with an update as the family struggles to cover the cost of his recovery. Mary Kate.
Jim, 18-year-old Hunter Wayne Scott was on a cross-country mission trip with 32-year-old Michael Evans. The pair had been to 20 states before a pit stop and a breakdown in Bakersfield turned tragic.
Hunter Wayne Scott and Mike Evans set out July 23rd with one goal: spread the word of Jesus.